After the success of the first Dead Rising, it was only a matter of time before we got a sequel. Dead Rising 2 would be released September 24, 2010, with the difference being it was also coming to PlayStation 3. Keiji Inafune, Capcom, and newly formed in-house Canadian developers Flying Castle shed the chains of console exclusivity to give us a solid sequel. Just like the first game, I will be playing and reviewing the remaster that released in 2016 for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. The remaster is largely superficial with minor bug fixes and graphic upgrades, so if you wanted to take what I'm saying for the original release, it still applies. All that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the game's story.
Katie? Katie! Get off!
Dead Rising 2 takes place 4 years after the events of the first game and opens to you playing as Chuck Green, a motocross rider tending to his bike and daughter. It becomes obvious that Chuck's daughter Katie has been bitten, but the time that's passed between games has allowed the world to evolve with the whole zombie issue. Katie is kept from turning by using a drug, Zombrex, that needs to be administered every 24 hours on the hour to keep off zombification. It's another one of the game's mechanics you will need to focus on if you want to keep Katie alive and get the game's best ending. Dead Rising's world is adapted to zombies beyond drugs. We have a zombie-killing game show taking place in the fictional town of Fortune City called Terror is Reality that you get to compete in at the start of the game, and there is even a zombie activist group called Cure fighting for zombie rights. I enjoyed all these details that they added in fleshing out the world. It helps make everything feel more alive. Going back to the core narrative, Chuck is leaving the Terror is Reality event when he realizes a new outbreak is underway. Chuck grabs his daughter and finds a safe house with survivors. A news broadcast is shown blaming Chuck for the outbreak, and from there, he's trying to prove his innocence. The player will accomplish this by exploring Fortune City's malls, resorts, and casinos.
It's very familiar. I can't put my finger on it. It's very familiar.
Chuck may not have a camera here, but you have a very similar narrative from the first game. This isn't a huge drawback because they do so much for the world building, and the gameplay is truly where Dead Rising 2 shines. But I would have liked to see a more original narrative for the sequel here, especially since the game's protagonists are dry as dry can be. This critique mainly goes towards Chuck. He seems like a decent dude, but he doesn't have much character traits beyond protective, stoic dad. I mean, he seems nice, but every enemy you come across is vastly more interesting and makes him look wooden in comparison. The only interesting question I had about Chuck is whether he was birch or cedar. Despite Chuck being boring and them repeating some narrative beats from the first game, it still holds up. It still has that ridiculous over-the-top charm that really carries you to the end. Gun to my head, I had to pick which one I preferred narratively out of 1 and 2. I'd probably pick the first one. So with the story sorted and done, let's take a look at the gameplay. The gameplay loop is largely the same for the first Dead Rising. You are given a 3-day time limit to finish cases as they appear at specific periods of the day that you will have to find time to complete. Along the way, you will be killing zombies, gaining power points to level up, saving survivors with much better AI, praise Jesus, and fighting psychos. I love that they kept all this. It's a simple situation of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. The primary changes and improvements are to the combat in the game. You can still use anything that's not nailed down as a weapon, but now you can combine a hefty majority of them to create super weapons. In good Dead Rising fashion, they don't let something like realism get in the way of making something cool. Combine a pitchfork with a shotgun, a flashlight with diamonds to make a lightsaber, or create the game's iconic paddle saw with the kayak paddles and chainsaws. You will get additional power points by using them, along with collectible scratch cards. Cards that offer more moves and more PP bonus. Further incentive to experiment with items beyond them just being fun as hell. The player still has the ability to keep books in their inventory for buffs, and they can blend different food items for temporary buffs or abilities. My personal favorite is Spitfire, because nothing beats dropping a hot 16 on these bitches.
You know what it is, Hot 97 Funk Flex!
Another very welcomed addition to the game is 2-player co-op that can be started as soon as you get to the safe house. The non-hosting player will not be able to save any story progression, but they do gain power points that they can carry over to a new solo playthrough for themselves. Also, the non-hosting player doesn't get to keep any of the weapons that they had when they rejoin. Any money that they spend carries over to their deaths and reloaded saves. While this is annoying, it doesn't deter me from recommending playing with a friend, because it is an absolute blast.
God, Chuck's got some thickness to him.
It's got some cake.
Look at my ass in these shorts. This get up. Dude.
Jesus Christ!
Dude, right?
Rocking a dunk truck.
Oh, he's got a dunk in this thing.
Hurry up!
God damn, Chuck! You're gonna have me acting up.
Oh. That's it. There you go. Hit me again. There you go. Don't stop.
Watch me throw it back.
Damn. Come help me.
She is just...
Quick, you need to save me. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight Carl again. I don't want to fight Carl.
No, you're going back up.
No. I'm so unhappy.
Yes. Oh, no.
Aim for my mouth.
I can't fault much of Dead Rising 2's gameplay, but if I had to nitpick, the player movement is still relatively basic and clunky, but a lot of that is alleviated once you hit a higher level and unlock combat moves for Chuck. Player speed will be improved if you gain power points as well, so you should save some survivors or fight one of the many creative psychos to make that happen. Seriously, the psychos are great in this one. At one point you actually fight a tiger and his trainer, for fuck's sakes. If you're better than myself, you can tame the tiger and bring him back to the safe house. Glad to see these dynamic moments also carried over from Dead Rising 1. Really great gameplay for Dead Rising 2. But how's the overall presentation?
I'm Slappy. Everyone knows Slappy. And everyone knows you. You started the outbreak. I saw it on TV.
Graphically, Dead Rising 2 looks noticeably better than the first, with better character models and decent facial animations. Keeping the previous game's bright color palette was a good idea as well, because the world is so over the top and quirky, it would be odd to have some dry, drab colors. The setting of Fortune City is also very well laid out, and I love the look of everything. Having Vegas fall on the canon was a good choice because it allowed the level creators to have fun with a very similar environment. When it comes to sound design, the effects and overall score are great. Hearing slot machines go off and generic lobby music really help bring me into the game world. I can't say the same for the voice acting. Now, all the voice actors are doing a tremendous job, including Chuck's, but some of the lines that they have these guys deliver, no one would be able to pull off.
Hey, buddy. I heard you lost your wife in Vegas. I guess you suck at killing zombies, otherwise she'd still be around.
Luckily, a few of them are hilarious.
I saw what you did there. Damn it! Not again! Hey, that's not magic. She's dead.
Dead Rising 2 is also a few hours longer than the first. In around 22 hours, you're getting your money's worth, but just know that you may run into issues if you play on PC. I was surprised to be having crashing issues considering the first remaster ran so well for me, but without fail the first boot of the day would always result in a crash that was so severe that I would have to open up Task Manager to get the game to close. I wasn't the only one having this issue either. The friend that I played through the game was also having this issue, and he has a much better setup than I do, so look out for that if you decide to pick this one up. Finally, if you consider yourself a firm lover of the series, there is also the downloadable game Case Zero. Case Zero dropped August 31st, 2010, before Dead Rising 2. It's essentially a playable demo, but was released as its own game. I've heard it compared to Ground Zeroes from the Metal Gear Solid series, but while that game launched at $30, this game launched at $5, and at that price point, I'd recommend playing it. The unfortunate thing is the game is only available on Xbox 360 or Xbox One backwards compatibility, which is why you're looking at 720p right now. The game takes place 2 years before Dead Rising 2, in a small town just outside of Las Vegas called Stillwater. Vegas has fallen to a zombie outbreak and Chuck's daughter is new to being infected. Case Zero's purpose is to introduce you to key mechanics you will see in Dead Rising 2, like juices and survivors. And I know what you're thinking, am I buying a tutorial? And the answer is basically yes. This practice was odd for sure, and I'm certainly glad they stopped doing it. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a soft spot for Case Zero. It adds more context and personality to Chuck and Katie's story, along with a psycho that you would never see if you just played Dead Rising 2. There's also an added benefit if you play the Xbox 360 version of both games, because your level in Case Zero carries over to Dead Rising 2. It makes the loading times almost worth it.
Jesus Christ.
The unfortunate thing about Case Zero is its length. Don't expect it to last very long. I managed to finish the whole thing in just under 2 hours. So it's fun, but doesn't last. Kinda like me.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
And with that, that's all there really is to say. Dead Rising 2 is a classic series, and 2 was when it was at its golden age. Playing it got me all nostalgic for a long past era in gaming. It just holds up. If you've never played it before, please do. And if it's been a minute, play through it again. I think you'll enjoy it. I know I certainly did.